All right, here we go. When I say, am I recording? Yes. When I say find the equation of the line, do I care what form you put it in? So you have 4 options for every single one of these, don't you? Each one of those 4 options applies to one of these, right? This one has a slope and a point. So what one are we automatically going to use? Point slope form. Y minus 1 equals 3 bracket x minus 2. Done. 1 mark for everything on this page. Oh, y minus 1, that's supposed to say. I said y minus 1, but I wrote y minus y. And now it won't erase to doubly embarrass me. But I could go back onto the video and find out that I said y minus 1. What are we doing with the next one? Same thing. Y minus 4 equals negative 2/5 x plus 1. Now, let's pretend that you were like, I have a slope. I better do slope-intercept. Could you still? Yeah, because you would do y equals 3x plus b, and that's an x. So what would you do with that 2? You'd put it right there. And that's a y, so what would you do with that 1? You'd put it right there. It's fine. It'll catch up. And then you would solve for b, and then you would have it. Oh, blue screen. That's extra awesome. The blue screen of death. Right? If you didn't do point slope form, you could still do it because you had the slope and an x and a y. But of course, you wouldn't do that because that's extra work. Right? And we don't like doing extra work. Who does? Heck, most of you don't like doing the regular amount of work, let alone extra. Really? When? Oh, I see. Okay, this one's tricky because you see the word slope and you see the word intercept. Can you use y equals mx plus b? You can, but you can't put that 3 in for b, can you? Why? Because that's the x-intercept. So, the x-intercept is what point? It's 3, 0, isn't it? Now you have a point. Can you use point slope form? Could you use y equals mx plus b? Yeah, but you would put 3 and 0 in for x and y, and then you would find b, and you'd be okay. Now, is there anybody that didn't do point slope form here? Okay, so you have y equals 2, x minus 3. Okay. You could have y equals 2x minus 6. You could have that. What? They're the exact same answer. They're the exact same thing, so they're both worth 1 mark. Now, X-intercept and Y-intercept. Right? This one's a little tricky, yeah? Right? So, some of you might do this. 3a, because the x, a goes with x, right? Plus 4b equals c. You may try that because of general form. Is that okay? Not really. So what I would do here, because I have the y-intercept, what would I find? The slope. If the x-intercept is 3, there's 3, right? I ran 3. And the y-intercept is 4, there's 4. So this is my line, correct? So it's up 4 and run of negative 3. So my slope equals negative 4/3. Now I have a slope and a y-intercept. So it's y equals negative 4/3 x plus 4. Everybody cool? You could do point slope, but you would still have to find the slope, right? And if you did point slope, you have 3, 0, or 0, 4. So you could have had y equals negative 4/3 x minus 3, or you could have had y minus 4 equals negative 4/3 x, because this would have been x plus 0, right? All 3 of those are exactly the same thing. Everybody cool? Sweet. Obviously, point slope again. Y equals 3/4 x minus 4. Obviously, point slope again. Y minus 5 equals negative 2x. If you wanted to change that, it would be y equals negative 2x plus 5, of course, right? And if you wanted to change this, it would be y equals 3/4 x minus 3, right? You could have done both of them. This one's extra tricky, yeah? Why? Because it's the x-intercept, right? So what is the point here? Negative 2/3, 0, correct? So y equals 5/6 x plus 2/3, yes? That's kind of barfy. Are you allowed to leave it that way? Yeah, of course. You could also general form this pretty easily, couldn't you? Because what would happen? I'd have to multiply by 6, and that would tidy it all up, right? And this is the exact same as A, B, C, D, right? Except the slope is now what? It's positive, right? Because your x-intercept is negative 5, and your y-intercept is 2, so it's up 2, run 5. So your m equals 2/5, and then you have your three options, right? It could be y equals 2/5 x plus 2. It could be y minus 2 equals 2/5 x. Or it could be y equals 2/5 x plus 5. And that whole page, I think, is out of 8, yes? Yo. G? Yeah. If you have this in general form, do you want to see it? Yeah. Okay. In general form, this would be 6y equaled 5 x plus 2/3. And then you would want to multiply, then you would want to expand to get 6y equals 5x plus 10/3. Then you want to get rid of the 3, right? So you'd multiply everything by 3 and get 18y equaled 15x plus 10. And then you would have 15x minus 18y plus 10 equals 0. Okay? Two perpendicular lines intersect on the y-axis. That tells us a whole bunch of stuff, doesn't it? What does that tell us? That tells us that line 1 and line 2 have the same what? No, they're perpendicular. They have the same y-intercept. Yeah, I know, I just changed it back. They have the same b. So if I know one of their b, I know them both, right? And if I know one of the slope, I know them both, yes? So which one can I work with? This is one of the lines. I've underlined it in blue, so I'm going to say this guy is line 2. Is everybody okay with that? Just because I underlined it in blue, I can keep my color scheme, yeah? So if I have this line, I need to know the slope and the y-intercept, yes? What do I have to do to this to find both of those answers in one step? Isolate y. So if I move y over there, am I good? So 2x plus 8 equals y. So now I know my slope and I know my y-intercept. Line 1, b of line 1 equals what? No, b. 8, because they share the same spot, yeah? Now, what's the slope of line 1? The m of line 1 is negative 1/2. If I have the slope and the y-intercept, can I do it? Yeah. What is it? Y equals what? 1/2. Not 1/2. Negative 1/2. Negative 1/2 x plus 8. 2 marks. Because you had to do a bunch of work with line 1 before you could figure out line 2. Decide how much you're worth. Well, you're all priceless. Decide how much your work is worth. You do get paid here. You get paid in grades. You should. They're worth $500,000 to you. We've had this argument. Intersection of two perpendicular lines is -1 and -4. What do we know about that point? It's a point on which line? Both lines, because they intersect there, yes? And since it's a point, what form am I going to use? Point slope, right? So I know that line 1 is y, what? In point slope form, what would I put here? Y minus? Y plus 4 equals, do we know our slope? M x plus 1, yes? And what is line 2? Y minus 4 plus 4 equals M x plus 1. How can they be the same? Because they're both going through this point, yes? One of the lines is going through one way, the other line is going through the other way. But they both share that point, right? So the only thing I have to find is one slope, correct? Because if I know one slope, what do I do to find the other slope? Flip it and change the sign, right? So, let's find one slope. 2x plus y plus 6 equals 0. What needs to move? 2x and plus 6. So y equals -2x minus 6, yes? So one of the lines has -2 for m. Which one? Does it matter? No. So I can put -2 there. If -2 is there, what's this guy? Positive 1/2. And if you write them both, are you covered? Then you don't even need to say which is line 1 and which is line 2. Everybody understand? So again, 2 marks, because you had to mess around with something and then figure out how to apply it back here. The tricky thing here is recognizing that these are the same. Does everybody understand why that works? That diagram I drew right here. -1, -4, and they both go through it. Everybody gets that? 1 is positive, 2, 1 is negative. Yeah? Sweet. All right. How many lines do I have to draw? 3. The first one goes through -3, 1, 2, 3, positive 2, 1, 2, and then where do I put my second dot? Up 2 and right 5. Or down 2 and I make that line right there. That gets you 1 mark. Through -2, -1, -2, -1, that is parallel. How do I put my second dot? Up 2, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or down 2, left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do we know about those 2 lines? Same slope, so they're parallel, and they ever going to touch? No. And lastly, through -2, -1, this point right here, that is perpendicular. What do I do? Opposite and reciprocate. So what is C's slope? It was 2/5, but that's what I need. What does it become? -5/2. So how do I do that? Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and right 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 2. And it goes right through there for a 3rd mark. Making that page out of 2, 4, and 3 is 7. Is everybody good to there? Okay. Now, I know I told you that there was almost no graphing in this unit, but graphing really helps reinforce the algebra, right? Actually, let's be honest. They both reinforce each other, right? So, there's your equation. What's the graph? Plus 6. So which one? Could it be A? Of course not, because A is a 5. Can't be C, so it has to be B or D. Which one has a negative slope? D, so it's D. You don't actually even have to know how it works, right? Write this in general form. What's general form? You should have said yes, sir. Yes, sir. Write this in general form. Yes, sir. Yes. Which is what? No. What's not allowed to be there? Fractions, and A must be? Great. So if I put everything on one side here, I'm halfway there, aren't I? So 1/4 x plus or minus y. Minus y plus or minus 2. Plus 2 equals what? 0. What's not allowed to be there? Fraction. How do I get rid of that? Multiply by 2? 4. What happens to these 4s? Cancel. What's left? X. 4 times y. What's that? Minus 4y. 4 times 2. What's that? Plus 8 equals 4 times 0. 0. What's the answer? D. As in, damn, I'm good at math. Uh-oh. Determine the slope-intercept form of a line that passes through there. Is that a point? So there's my x and y, correct? And is parallel to that line. What does parallel mean? Same slope. So if I know this slope, do I know this guy's slope? So what do I got to do here? Find slope. How? Okay, you could write it that way. Over x1 minus x2. Doesn't matter what order we put it in, does it? As long as you're subtracting and as long as the pairs match up. So what would you write here, Tushar? Because you're right. What would I write right there? What did you write?
0.
You put the 0 there, and then you did minus 2, right? Or maybe you wrote 0 plus 2, because it's the same thing. Over, now if this is 0, what's this? 1 minus 9, which gets me 2 over negative 8, which gets me negative 1/4. Yes? So that's my slope. That's my point, correct? So I write it out in point slope form. Y minus 10 equals negative 1/4 x minus 8, correct? But I want slope-intercept form, so that means isolate y, right? Okay, so what would I have to do to isolate y? What needs to move? The negative 10. Y equals negative 1/4 x minus 8 plus 10, yes? Get rid of the brackets. Y equals negative 1/4 x. What's negative times a negative? Positive. And what's a quarter of 8? Quarter of 8 is 2. Plus 2 plus 10. What's 2 plus 10? I gave away the answer there. 12. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 12. C. What? Isn't what? Once, yeah. I didn't invert anything. I don't know what you're asking me, Nathan. Okay. All right. Perpendicular to this line. As soon as you see the word perpendicular, what should you do? You could write line 1 and line 2. Find slope. What's this guy's slope? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4. 5 over negative 4. Agreed? But I don't need this line. I need a perpendicular line. So what do I do? So it becomes 4 over 5, correct? That's the slope I care about. That slope works with that line. What uses x, x, y, y, and slope? Right. 4/5 equals k minus 14. Could I do 14 minus k? Yes. Over, since I put k first, what goes here? 27. And what goes here? 12. So 4 over 5 equals k minus 14 over 15. Yes? What do I do whenever I see fraction equals fraction? Cross multiply. What's 4 times 15? 60 equals. What's 5 times k? Minus? What's 10 times 5? 50. What's 4 times 5? 20. What's 50 plus 20? 70. Now solve. What is this? Where does this go? Over here. And becomes what? 130 equals 5k. Now what? Divide by 5. What does k equal? 26. 1 mark there. What is this guy's slope? How will I find slope? What gives me slope immediately? Slope-intercept form. How do I get the slope-intercept form? Isolate y. Do I even care about the 10? So I just got to worry about the y. Is y positive? Should I touch him? No. 7y. What should I do with this guy? And become what? Negative 4x. Now what? Divide by 7. Divide by 7. There's your slope. B. For 1 mark. Making that page out of 234 was out of 3. That page was out of 2. And is that it? So 2 and 3 is 5. And 7 is 12. And 8 is 20. 2. I should give 2 marks for that perpendicular one, shouldn't I? Yeah, that should be worth 2. Let's make it out of 21. That solve for k. Yo. That's awesome, David. Now, what would you attribute that to? Why are you all of a sudden getting an A? What changed? What did you do differently in this 7th unit than you didn't do the previous 6? Because something's obviously different, right? Okay. Okay, so what do you think is contributing to that? Pardon me? So getting help from Sakshi helps you here, right? Okay. So what would make it so your tests felt like an assignment? Because you can't really work with Sakshi, right? That's not fair, yeah? So what could we do? Okay, I need to show you guys something. Where do you think this question came from? The same place I get all your test questions. They're the exact same questions. Right? So, I haven't changed. The test questions don't change. But some of you are getting A's here. Something has changed. You need to figure out what it is. I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. But I don't want to tell you because I've been telling you it all year. You need to get to it yourself. All right, I got 1038. This is all we're doing for this unit. It will go into check my mark when I get the marks from you. All right? It's 1040. Okay. No. I'm gonna steal some time from our next unit. Why not? Everybody please turn to, it's 2 or 3 pages away. It says solving systems by graphing, I think. Oh, it just says linear systems, right. Okay, you guys are going to find this so easy, it's crazy. But it's actually really difficult math. But at this point in the year, you're all be like, what's so hard about that? Trust me. So, a system of equations. If something is a system, how many parts does it have? Multiple, right? Is this a system? Yeah. There's a tube of ink, delivers it to a little ball at the bottom, the ball writes. Everybody cool? System. Right? Now, is this a system? A pen and a paper are a system? Or are they only a system when I start doing this? Don't I have to write to make it a system? All right. So everyone's cool, yes? So a system must be more than one part, right? Working together to get somewhere. Agreed? What's an equation? I'll ask you, is this an equation? You're just going to keep both saying yes and no until I give you a hint as to which one is correct. I'm just going to keep doing this until somebody gives me a reason for what they think. There's no equal sign. What is the answer to that? 7x. Doesn't x mean I don't know the answer? Okay. Now is it an equation? What's the answer? No. 4. Everybody cool? All right. So, if a system is a group of things that work together, and an equation is what we just saw, what must a system of equations be? Multiple equations that will do what? Work together to do something. What is the something that equations do? Get us an answer, right? So, a system of equations is a group, and when I say group, it has to be at least 2, right? Because if you only have one equation, it's not a group, right? Okay, a group of equations It's a group of equations that can work together to provide a solution to all of those equations. Okay? That's what a system does. Now, sometimes there is no solution. You have 2 things that you're working with, and there is nothing in the universe that works in both equations. That happens. Right? So if you're counting one thing and you're counting another thing, you want to see what happens when they catch up to each other. Maybe they will never catch up to each other. Right? Let me give you an example. How many of you have a younger brother? At some point, your younger brother or sister catches up to you 1 year in age, yes? Or you get 1 year further away, depending on birthday, right? Will they ever catch you? Or will you ever catch them? No. Now, I know that my little brother, his birthday was in February. Mine was in April. So from February to April, he was only 1 year younger than me. And he would always go, I'm catching up to you. I'm 1 year closer. You're only 1 year older than me now. And I would say, you're such an idiot. I'm still 2 years older than you. Shut up. Yes, go eat your pizza pops. All right. So everyone's cool? Sometimes there's no solution. Now, a linear equation. What's a linear equation? I'll take a definition or an example. I don't care. What is a linear equation? No flies on you, Prav. Yeah, the change is constant, right? So a linear equation is an equation where the dv changes in a predictable form, in a predictable way, when the IV changes, right? We already know that. We've just done 3 units on linear equations, right? Okay, so if a system is a group of equations, a linear equation is that. What must a linear system be? The whole system is made up of linear equations. So a linear system is a system with all linear equations. Everybody cool? All right. So to solve a linear system means we need... How many variables are there in one linear equation? 2. No, how many variables are there? 2, an IV and a DV, yes? So, to solve a linear equation, I must find a value that works for IV and DV, yes? So what must I do to solve a linear system? How many IVs and DVs must I find? For however many equations there are. Well done. Everybody understand? So to solve a linear system means to find the IV and DV, if we've only got 2, that satisfy both equations. Oh, it should say all. Yes, thank you. For all equations. Thank you. So let me give you a really, really easy one. What's X? Excellent. Okay. What's Y? 4. Everyone can solve it now. So what is the X comma Y that solves this system? 4 comma 4. Right? Because if I put 4 in for X, 7 times 4 is 28. If I put 4 in for Y, 2 times 4 is 8. Everybody cool? That's solving systems. That's how easy it is. No, they're not going to be that easy. Right? But let's remember, Prab, 3 apples plus 7 apples teaches us how to factor. Right? Okay. There are 3 ways to solve these bad boys. Graphing is the easiest. But it's also the least reliable. What makes graphing a bad way to give me the exact X and Y? Because you can't always tell where the dots are, right? So graphing's the easiest. Elimination and substitution are algebraic, take a bit more work, but they are exact. So today we're just going to talk about graphing. And we may even run out of time, but I just wanted to use the time up. So we're going to solve by graphing. If you're going to solve by graphing, you find out where the lines cross. What? There's a line, yes? What is that red line made up of? Points. And every single point is what? Is a value. X and Y, right? So that point right there, what is its value? Do you know? No. but you know it's x and y, correct? Because that whole red line is made up of red x's and y's, yes? Now, if another line comes through here, this blue line, what's that blue line made up of? X's and y's. What do you notice is happening right there? They cross over, which means there's a red xy that also works for the blue xy. So that would be the solution to the system. Everybody understand? What if I brought in a third line? Does that xy work in all three? So is that the solution to all three of them? Yes. Let me show you with the easy example I just did. We said 7x equaled 28, yeah? So x was 4, correct? So 1, 2, 3, 4. There is where x is 4, and there is where x is always 4, right? And we also said y was 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is where y is 4, and there is where y is always 4, right? What do you see right? And wait, I use red and blue. So what do you see right there in purple? I see an intersection at 4, 4, x, y. Everybody understand? So if I can put two lines on a graph, I automatically know the answer, right? And here's why it's cool. If you didn't know what I just taught you, could you solve this? You can't. There's two unknowns. You can't solve it, can you? Because you can't tell me what y is, because you don't know what x is. But now, if you were to put those two lines on a graph, you would find the y and the x where they cross. So, how do we do that? Well, there's two very easy ways to graph, isn't there? Y equals mx plus b, and y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, right? So, for this class, I'm going to use ones that work with slope-intercept, because that's the easiest one, right? I'll give you the skill, and then we'll apply it later on. So remember, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So step one is graph each line. If I'm going to graph it, I must put them into y equals mx plus b, which I must put both into y equals mx plus b. Then I graph them, and then the ordered pair where x and y where they cross, because the x and y from line 1 and the x and y from line 2 work in both equations. Everybody understand? All right, let's try one. Turn the page over. Solve by graphing. All right, I'll do this one in red. First step was put it in slope-intercept form, right? So what has to move? X. Y equals negative x plus 4. Could I graph that? Okay, how would I graph that? The x-intercept of 4, the y-intercept of 4. So I put a dot, 1, 2, 3, 4, and my slope is what? Negative 1. So if I go down 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, right 4, am I cool? And I could fill in all these dots if I wanted to, correct? Everyone agree? All of you could graph that in your sleep, yes? We've just done 3 units on that. Everybody could do this, right? Okay. Let's do this guy in blue. What moves? 2y equals x plus 2. Now what? Y equals 1/2 x plus what? 1. So I go to 1, and I go up 1 over 2. And what do I see? Up 1, right 2. What happens? They cross right there, which I will do in purple. What is that point? That point is 2, 2, right? No, I'm not. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how many times have I said you always have a way to check if your work is right? Lots, right? Should you say right now, Mr. Mudd, did I do it right? Did I do it right? No, you shouldn't. And here's why. Isn't that an X? Isn't that a Y? Isn't that an X? And isn't that a Y? So what could I write there? 2. Negative 2 plus 4. And what would I write here? 2. Is negative 2 plus 4 2? So did I do it right for that equation? Yes. Now let's come to here. What could I write there? 2. Is 2 plus 2 the same as 2 times 2? Yes. So did I do it right for that equation? So did I do it right? Yes. You have one piece of homework tonight. Attempt number 2. Just that. One question. One question. Maybe. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to get a check plus for doing one question? Have a good day.